I'd love if you could give everyone listening in the biggest challenge you probably ever had to do. The people who were pitching DNA, they said I could explain DNA to you in 1 minute. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to explain, okay, what really is cancer? And what are some of the things that you're seeing right now with your team, super far, like 50 years ahead of where a lot of other people are, that someone listening would be like, okay, this is really exciting and interesting where things could potentially go. And that's a tall order because that's 10 minutes. And when we've talked about this, it was 3 hours before.
So every cell on Earth almost has the ability to re-engineer itself, cut, splice, rearrange its DNA, change its own heredity, change its own genetics, sense whatever's going on in the environment, adapt to it at high speed. And this is what makes evolution possible. And cancer is when the cells of your own body go rogue and start evolving out of control. So let's say it's your kidneys. Used to be a great place to work, used to have good morale, used to have long breaks, used to have a nice boss. Well, now it's stinky in here and the work hours are too long and the breaks are too short and the food is bad. Get me out of here. And those kidney cells literally want to leave and they are stressed out. They feel threatened. Maybe they're not getting enough oxygen. Maybe they're not getting enough nutrients. They start switching on evolutionary mechanisms to defend themselves.
Because they want to get out.
Well, they start changing just to survive. And then a white blood cell goes swimming by. Hey, if you give me a ride out of here, I'll give you immortality. Let's do a merger acquisition. And the white blood cell goes, immortality sounds good. I like that idea. And they merge together and they go floating off into the bloodstream. And that is what we call a polyploid giant cancer cell. And that is the mother of many cancers. It's not cancer yet, but at some point it will start spilling out baby cancer cells, which will metastasize. And those cells, those baby cells, they do not consider themselves a part of you. They consider themselves to be independent renegades, as though they were just floating around in the ocean hunting for food. And so they recruit arteries and blood vessels to start sending more nutrients our way. They start tricking out the immune system and telling it things that aren't true. They start growing, they start developing, even like turning on more blades of their Swiss Army knife of evolutionary mechanisms. And then when you attack them violently with chemotherapy or radiation, they evolve even faster, because what that does is it causes their evolutionary machinery to switch on. So when you go for chemo or radiation, you are dumping napalm on a Vietnamese village. And if you don't kill everybody in the village, like everybody, if there's a few left over that are upset, well, here's what happens. Your sister-in-law calls you and go, my numbers are looking great. And 5 months later, she's dead. Because the few, that tiny little percentage that were left over, they come back with a vengeance. Because you are fighting the evolutionary machinery that the creationists tell you doesn't exist and that the atheists don't tell you anything about. Because it doesn't fit either one of their neat little story. And one of the reasons that cancer research has been stuck, one of the many, is because the war between the creationists and evolutionists has hid the real story about evolution. You can't understand cancer unless you understand evolution. You can't understand evolution unless you understand cancer. So you said something like So what could happen in, what, 5 or 10 or 50 years if what we're doing prevails? So I think you could have a $25 test at Walgreens that you go do every year to find out if you've got stage -1 precancerous cells in your body.
Which are these giant polyploid cells.
Yeah, and there's tiny numbers of them.
Yeah.
They're 100 times the size of a regular blood cell, but there's maybe only a few hundred. And most people would never look for them or find them, but we have ways to find them. So you could have a test and it could tell you, not only do you have stage -1 cells in your blood, they're coming from your kidneys, so you have unhappy kidneys, so we got to figure out what's up. Do you need green tea, meditation, forgiveness, different diet, more exercise, more sunlight, less sunlight?
Different job.
Different job. Can we give you a PET scan every 2 months and watch it like a hawk? Maybe we can cut out that little itty bitty corner. Can we walk this back? I think it's very likely that we will have a way to take those cells out. I don't have time to, we already have ways of marking those cells and painting a red bullseye on them right now. There is a chip that somebody's developed at Columbia that you can insert under the skin that can detect those cells in your body.
Wow.
Michael Levin at Tufts University has done experiments where he induces cancer in amphibians and then gets cancer cells to revert back to normal cells. Yes.
Holy smokes.
Yes. And I think some of that technology could be used to reverse early cancer cells if you catch it early enough. Now, I'm a marketer and I understand why early detection sounds so good, but people don't do it, and it's because it's prevention. I don't know how many consultations I've done with clients where they have a prevention. I'm like, well, could you sell a cure for like 100 times more money and then like eventually figure out how to sell the prevention? Because prevention's hard to sell.
Yeah.
If a guy's having a heart attack, like right now, you say, I'll fix your heart attack for $250,000, and the guy will say, sold.
Yep. Right.
5 years ago, you couldn't get him to ride an exercise bike. You couldn't get him to stop eating cheeseburgers. And so I think the people in the know need to put less and less and less money towards stage 3 and 4, which is where the bleeding neck is, and put more and more into stage -1, stage 0, and stage 1. And that's why I'm working with the people that I'm working with.